Okay, my name is Nancy McCaffrey. I am at Emma Clark Library in Setauket, and I'm interviewing Jack Raybin for the Library of Congress Veterans History Project. It is February 28th, 2019. And in the room with us is Ann Raybin, Jack's wife, and Victor Kayamanda, his aide. Okay? So how are you, Jack?
I'm fine, thank you.
I'm glad you're here. Okay, so let's get some biographical information from you, okay? When were you born?
July 4th, 1919.
July 4th, 1919 will make you 100 years old this year.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. And where were you born?
Where? In Brooklyn, New York.
Okay. And your parents, what were their names?
My mother's name was Celia, and my father's name was Sam.
Okay.
Samuel.
Samuel, okay. And what did they do for a living?
My father was a house painter. My mother was a wife, just stayed home.
Housewife.
Housewife.
Okay. Did you have any siblings?
I guess they were, I had half sisters. In other words, I had sisters that were born on my father's first wife.
Oh, okay. Okay. And do you remember their names?
Florence and Adele.
Okay. And I'm sure they weren't in the military at that time. They didn't go into the military.
Probably.
They weren't in the military, of course, at that
No.
time. No. Okay. What were you doing before you entered the service?
He dropped out of college.
Actually, I think I was floundering.
Oh, okay. So you didn't know what you wanted to do.
That's right.
Okay.
Jack, you dropped out of college.
I know now. If I had my others, I would say I
You
was.
dropped out of college.
What?
You dropped out of college.
Yeah, I had entered City College, and after a little while I dropped out. Why? I don't remember why.
Just weren't interested.
This wasn't the right time.
Okay. And what were you, about 18, 19 at that time?
Yes. 19. Let's see, I went into the Army 1941.
41, 19.
I think the paper said 42.
Okay, so you were about, what?
22.
19, something like that, yeah, 22, right, okay. So were you drafted into the service or did you enlist?
I volunteered.
Oh, you did?
In that days, they said if you volunteer for a year, if you volunteer, all you had to serve was a year. Otherwise, if you didn't volunteer, you stayed in the service until they told you to get out.
Oh, okay. And what year was this, 42 you said?
Yes.
So was the war going on at that time, World War II?
The war in Europe was 1939,
Okay.
and the war in the United States went in, I think, in 41.
Okay, so it was going on at
He
that
went
time.
in before the war.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't understand, the papers said 42, but he always said 41. And I
Okay,
know he went in before the war.
all right. And what branch of service did you enlist in?
The
You in the Army or the
It's the Army. In the Army.
You went into the Army, okay. And, so you went into the Army and you were sent to boot camp, I guess. Where was that?
Upton, Camp Upton,
On the island?
on the island.
Oh, I didn't know that was a boot camp.
Yes.
Okay. And how long did you stay there?
I guess about a year. And then we were sent down to a camp that they just built in, where else?
San Diego. San Diego, you said.
Huh?
You went to San Diego.
No. That was after. But they had just built a camp for incoming soldiers in,
Was it down south?
yeah,
It was either probably Georgia or Alabama, someplace like that, probably.
I don't remember where
That's
it
okay.
was at the time.
That's okay. So when you were in boot camp, what was that like?
Well, that was fine. I mean, just you trained, you had no worries. I mean, the Army took care of you.
Yeah. How was the food?
It was fine.
Really? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of your instructors? Does anybody stand out in your mind?
No.
No.
They were.
All right. And you met a lot of people from different areas, I guess?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
but mostly from the east, from my area.
Right. Brooklyn.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So once you finished boot camp, you went into your specialized training?
You went to officers candidate school.
I was sent to San Diego. I remember going to San Diego, Lindbergh Field, to guard they were making airplanes, B-24s,
You had a guard then
and we had to guard the factory that was making them. So I spent time there in San Diego on guard duty for guarding the manufacturing of the airplanes.
there? So were they afraid they were going to be attacked by who?
They never knew, but
Oh,
they
okay.
took their chances.
Okay. So that was your job there for how long?
Must have been about a year. And then a friend of mine who was with me all through this time, his name was Charlie. He decided to go into the Air Corps
To be a pilot?
to be a pilot. I wore glasses. I wore glasses ever since I was 3 years old. And at that time, they did not take men into the Air Corps with glasses.
Oh, okay.
So I went to North Carolina Officers Candidate School.
Oh, okay. Now, did you have to take tests in order for them to realize you could be an officer? Did you have to take a battery test?
I
or
was
anything?
interviewed,
Okay.
and they
Yeah,
said,
take
yes,
tests.
you can go. So I spent 3 months in North Carolina in Officers Candidate School.
Oh, okay.
I came out, actually, I'm trying to remember how I wound up in Panama.
We'll get there. Let's talk about Officers Candidate School. What did they teach you there?
Well, the basics of warfare, but
He used to remember everything.
Well,
I'm trying to recall. I know I went to Panama, and
okay.
so
Well, let's think about it. So you went to Officers Training School, and that was 3 months. And then right after that, you went over to Panama?
Did they send you to Texas?
I'm trying to remember, did I go to Panama as a private or as an officer?
You went as an officer.
Okay, so you're there as an officer, and you were guarding the Panama Canal?
Yes.
Okay, so what was that like?
Well, the first year, it was, they thought they might be bombed by the Japanese, the canal. So it was, being aware and training for anything that the Japanese might want to bomb the canal.
Very kind of an attack.
Yeah, good attack. So to be ready for that. But after a while, they realized the Japanese were not going. The Japanese, I understand, were on their way to bomb the canal. But there was a action in Midway, in the Pacific Ocean, and they were called back to help their troops, fight the Americans in Midway.
Oh, so they didn't come.
So the canal was spared.
Okay. Now, you were an officer there. Did you have men under you that you were in command of?
Yes, a battalion.
And how many people was that? I don't know, how big is a battalion?
Oh, it was a battalion made up of a battalion made, I forget how many made up. I know I was a captain and I had 3 lieutenants under me.
Oh, okay. So it was a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what was it like there in Panama? What was it like
Well,
when you were there?
At that time, they were afraid of mosquito bites, so you slept under a netting on a cot in a tent,
Oh, okay.
and they had an officer going around spraying mosquitoes.
That must have been terrible to breathe in, right? It must
Well,
it's like poison.
They didn't spray you anyway when you were near. They sprayed before you went to bed and stuff like that.
Then it helped?
Yeah, apparently.
All right. So how was it? Was it very warm there and hot in the tents and?
Yes, it was warm.
Yeah. And how was your food there? How was the eating there, food and?
Well, we had what we call mess halls, and my organization had, I think, two or three mess halls, different places. I remember Eleanor Roosevelt came down
Oh,
for an
really?
inspection.
Wow. And you met
I
her?
met her,
His
and
wife.
she says to me, "Which is your best mess hall?" And I, like a stupid one, says, "That one on the hill." And she says, "Captain, they all should be the best."
Okay. What was that like meeting her?
Very well.
Yeah.
I shook her hand, and she's very gracious.
That's nice. That's a great memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So when you were on the Panama Canal, there really wasn't any kind of skirmishes or anything like that going on?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. So you basically were the commander of a battalion and you
We-
just guarded the canal pretty much?
Guarded the canal.
Okay.
And after a while, we realized that the war was nowhere near us, so we got to the area, place where when you got up morning, you took care of your equipment, you cleaned it, you took care of it, and then in the afternoon, you went and played baseball.
I've heard this story before. Other veterans told me they played baseball. Yeah, that's funny. So did you ever get R&R?
Once,
Yeah, where'd you go?
back to the States.
Oh, you went back to the States?
I went back to New York. I wanted to see my family. I got 30 days I spent with the family and with friends, and then I went back
To Panama.
to Panama. But to get to Panama, I went to New Orleans and waited for a ship to come to go to Cuba. I forget where, Cuba, and from Cuba to Panama,
Wow. How long did that take you? How long did it take you to do that?
10 days,
Wow. Okay. And you were on the ship the whole time?
yes.
So you didn't really get to see Cuba, you just passed
No.
by it?
No,
Okay. All right. So once you finished your duty in Panama, did you go anywhere else?
no. When I finished, I went back to New York.
Oh, okay. So how many years total were you in the Army then?
I went in 1941. I think it was February 4th. I was discharged from the Army in October 1946.
So you were in for 5 years.
You have to correct it on that.
Okay. So you were in for 5 years.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a long time. Yeah. Okay. So when you got home, did you use the GI Bill at all? Did you go back to school?
Yes,
No, I didn't.
you went back to school
I went back to school at night.
at night.
I took night classes.
Okay. All right. Let's just go back to the military again. When you were in Panama, how did you stay in touch with your friends and your family?
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't write letters or anything?
Yeah, we got letters, yes.
Did they send you packages and?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I read to them, I wrote, and they mailed back.
Okay. And you played baseball for recreation. That was really your big recreation. I heard that before. It's funny. So when you came back home, how did you get back home?
I took a flight from Panama to New Orleans,
Panama, New Orleans. Flight, okay.
and then from New Orleans, I took a flight to New York.
Okay, and then you were home.
Yeah.
So did they have a big welcome home party for you when you came back?
No.
No. Were you able to acclimate easily back to civilian life?
Yes.
Okay. So you said you went to night school, and what were you studying?
Engineering,
Oh.
civil engineering.
Okay, and what were you doing during the day?
You worked in an office.
Probably nothing. I don't remember what.
You worked in an office?
I worked for a liquor company.
Oh, okay. That's okay, it's not a big deal. So how long did it take you to get through night school?
Pardon me?
How long did it take you to get your degree?
4 years or something.
Okay, then did you go into engineering after that?
No, he went into
No.
administration.
No, okay. All right. That's fine. So what impact did the military have on you? Did you learn any life lessons or anything like that?
No, but having hindsight, if I had to do it over again, I'd go in, I would stay in the military army
Oh, you would? Why?
because I had the experience and had nothing waiting for me at home.
He was offered a majority. He
And
was offered a major, and he didn't.
I
take
would
it.
have been in the army, and the colonel, in fact, the colonel in charge at the time of me said to me, "Captain, if you stay another 6 months," this was the time they were letting everybody go, "another 6 months, I'll make you a major."
Wow.
And I said to them, I had enough of army life, I want out. And that, I think, was a mistake.
You regretted it. You regretted doing that.
Yeah, he did.
That's all I knew. I would have gone probably further in the army than elsewhere.
Hmm. Okay. All right. And how do you feel about war and the military in general? Do you have any observations?
Well, without conflict, war in the military is not so bad.
So you didn't find it a real hardship being in the army?
No.
No. Okay, that's good. Okay. Do you have any messages you'd like to leave for the future generations? Since you're almost 100 years old, I
One
would
thing
think
I
so.
remember, if you have to give instructions on a march or something like that, you have to pull out. And I remember going outside and trying to increase the volume of my voice so I could give instructions to the men watching.
So did you practice a lot?
I tried to.
Tell Nancy about the talk you had to give to a bunch of captains and colonels and everything. Jack, he was asked to give a talk.
What?
You always told the story of the talk you had to give to a bunch of captains and lieutenants, colonels and everything about something, I don't remember.
Oh,
It was a very funny story you always told.
my colonel calls me into the office and says, Captain, he says, we have to talk, the Army wants us to talk about chemical warfare.
Okay.
So here's the manual, read up on it, and then give it a class in chemical warfare.
That was it.
So I come to class and I look at the people that come in and I said to them, gentlemen, I see corporals, sergeants, officers. I says, but there's no one that that knows more about chemical warfare than I do. So let's start.
And you just read a manual yourself. How did it go, the class?
Fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, did you ever keep in contact with any of your fellow soldiers, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend in there. He was the dentist and doctor he was a dentist, and he lived in Massachusetts, and I kept in touch with him for a while.
Okay. Did you ever see him again after?
No,
No.
He came to New York.
Gottesman.
They got together in New York.
Gottesman.
Gottesman. He came to New York, remember?
He visited you in New York?
Yeah.
I
He was
don't
in a
recall.
hotel we lived in
Maybe.
the city.
Okay. And he was the only one that you kept in contact with?
Yes.
Okay. Were you, when you came back, did you join any veterans organizations?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. Now, I was reading in here, you did receive some medals.
He doesn't remember.
Oh, you don't remember, okay. All right, that's fine.
It was listed on his thing.
Oh, okay. That's fine. So is there anything you want to add that we haven't discussed? Any other stories you want to tell me, or?
The Army was selling war bonds. I mean, the government was selling war bonds, and the Army was trying to sell war bonds to the troops to buy war bonds. And there was one recruit that didn't want to buy the war bonds. So I had him stand at attention for a while until he decided that he wanted to buy war bonds.
And how much were these bonds? How much were they?
I don't.
So he finally bought one after you made him stand there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So anything else? How did the wartime experiences affect your life? Did it change your life at all? How you thought about other people or situations or?
No, it's, my army life was actually pretty uneventful.
Okay.
I was lucky to be sent to Panama. And after the threat of any bombing in Panama went away, the rest was very
His friend Charlie
ordinary.
was killed.
Just to,
You had a friend that died there? You had a friend that died in Panama?
yes,
Not in Panama.
Oh, not in Panama.
you know, my
Charlie.
friend Charlie, he and I went to Panama. We enlisted at the same time,
But he didn't go to Panama.
and Charles went. And after a while, we were sent to Lindbergh Field to guard the manufacture of the liberated 24s, the airplanes. We'd get up in the morning and the haze, the dew would evaporate and it would be beautiful sunshine, things like that. Well, my friend Charlie got bored with that and said he wanted to go to the Air Corps.
He wanted to be the pilot. He was
Yes.
the pilot, okay.
So I knew they didn't take me because I wore glasses, and he went in. And then I understand, and I got this from he got married while he was, I don't know, the furlough or something like that. But I got word that he died, and I went to visit the widow and ask her about the circumstances of his death. And she said to me that his unit was in North Africa when he got word that they had to go fly to England before the invasion. And he says, over the Atlantic Ocean, the plane developed problems. And the pilot of the plane asked them to bail out. And being young, they decided, no, they're going to go with the pilot, take their chances of whatever they thought that they can do. But they crashed. And I don't know, I think most of them died. Yeah, Charlie was one of them.
Oh, that's sad. Okay. All right. So is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, having hindsight, I realized that if I went into the Army, I would go further. In other words, I would be able to advance.
Yeah, you would advance quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you had a good life, right?
Yeah. That's what,
Met Ann.
yes.
You've been married for how many years?
71.
71 years?
This month.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I lived a pretty fine, lucky life.
He had a successful life.
That's great. It's wonderful. And
He
you're
was
going to be,
always in a leadership position.
oh, that's great. I want to thank you.
All right.
I really enjoyed this. I'm so glad you came in. Thank you.
You gotta change the date, he entered in February 19.